Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 6 and episode 4 of Behind Your Eyes. The wonderful Emma is my guest today. So, hi, Emma, if you would like to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for having me. Well, my name's Emma. I am the UK's leading law of attraction expert. I'm a 3 times best-selling manifestation author, a law of attraction YouTuber, and the host of my podcast, Spiritual Queens Badass Podcast.
Sounds awesome. Well, I always start with the same question, and that is a sincere, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. I am going through a bit of a stressful season. I'm in the process of buying our first home, so all first for me, learning the process, and also being challenged to deeply surrender along that process as well. But apart from that, all is well.
It's quite a learning journey, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned on your website that you had a spiritual awakening in 2016, and I would love to know a bit more about that and what that was like.
Of course. So I already had a different business to what I do now at that point. And relationships have really been, I've had many awakenings over the years, but I feel like the 2016 one was definitely the most pinnacle for me, and the one that really set this catalyst off for discovering spirituality, discovering the law of attraction, and really stepping into, my spiritual shoes and really owning that as well. So in 2016 was the end of, again, a not so great relationship. And at this point, I'd experienced depression and anxiety for years before that. I was about 22, 23 at this point. And it was a lot for, I'd obviously been put in £7,000 worth of debt before that. Obviously, I was clearing that debt. I'd then, from off the back of that, started this hugely incredible couponing and money saving business. But the depression never went, the anxiety never went. And in 2016 is when it really hit that peak for me, and when things really sort of like got to a point where it was, I wasn't coping, I wasn't managing, I was trying to go to CBT therapy, I was, having talk therapy with counselors, but nothing was giving me that relief. Nothing was helping me to understand what was going on or why that was happening as such. So at that point, after the breakdown of that second relationship, I really feel like although there was no sort of debt with that relationship, it really was that kind of emotional awakening, so to speak, where it really was, I was having suicidal thoughts, to put it really bluntly. And that, I thought I was never going to be that person. And I think it's interesting, and I'm sure you've spoken to so many people on this YouTube series about all kinds of mental health, but I think a lot of the time people think it won't happen to them, or that I won't be that type of person who has suicidal thoughts. But
Yeah.
I really was. And it really, really shocked me at that point, because I thought, wow, like this has got that bad. So for me at that point, it was, I need to change my life around. I know I don't want to end things. I know I want to live, but I didn't know how to live. And I also didn't know how to be happy, really, because I'd had all of this turmoil and all this trauma for so many years, which I didn't have the vocabulary for, I didn't understand. So, I was trying to get help, but wasn't getting the right help that was really going to help me to feel relief and see those long lasting. And for me, it was a bit like couponing, the money saving that I was doing before. That got me out of a really dark place in my life, and the law of attraction did as well. And it really helped me to empower myself and learn that, we do create our reality. And actually, I can create positive things in my life. I can learn how to love myself. I can learn how to be happy like everybody else, and, experience joy as well. So I feel like the law of attraction was really that catalyst of that spiritual awakening and learning more about these types of things. And although the law of attraction isn't necessarily spiritual, it definitely got me connected to myself, to my belief, to the universe, and really kickstarted that healing journey for me.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting to me that you said during that time when you were going through those depressive thoughts and anxiety that you didn't have the vocabulary to express that. How did you find that eventually?
Many years later, I feel like, you know, obviously in that time, mental health was still, you know, it was being spoken about more and more, definitely, but it was still very stigmatized, and it was very still much, you just go to therapy, you just take antidepressants. And that was sort of like the black and white of it, really. And I had tried all those things. Antidepressants made me worse. I did not get on with them at all. And that's not the case for everybody. For some people, they are life-saving. For some people, they have huge, huge benefits from. But for me personally, I didn't get that. And, you know, the traditional kind of CBT hypnosis therapy was not getting to the root of anything. It was coping mechanisms. But for me, it was not, why did I have depression? Why did I have anxiety? So I think as I went further along my spiritual journey, I started to learn about why we have limiting beliefs and fears, why we feel the way we do, why these emotions come up within us. And in 2020, like for most of us, I think the inner work really, really did come up. And again, I didn't have the vocabulary before of knowing that inner work existed or anything like that. So again, it was my law of attraction and spirituality journey that helped me to understand, oh, okay, like that's why I do these things, or that's why I've had these sort of life experiences. So inner child work was really the first thing that found me. And it was really, really great because it was so much fun to connect with my inner child, but also it helped me to understand again where I was coming from with these reactions, why I was experiencing anxiety and depression. And from there, it really was a whole journey in itself, hence why I wrote Hurt, Healing, Healed. You know, I went down different spiritual modalities, working with like past life regression, sound healing, gosh, there's so much of the years, breath work, Akashic records work. So I went super, super spiritual with it to start off with. But I feel like the last few years, especially as I was writing Hurt, Healing, Healed, I really brought it back into the cognitive side of things. And I started to work with IEMT and EMDR. And that's when my PTSD came to the surface as well. Again, had no idea any of that was under the surface until I was on the healing journey, until I was uncovering all of this. You know, I'd done things like womb work, like, oh my gosh, I've tried so much over the years, but I think the biggest things that have left the biggest impact and brought me the biggest transformation has definitely been when I've worked with IEMT and EMDR.
So would you say that when you went to therapy and tried that kind of help, that would only just like scratch the surface, and that the spiritual journey was more like the deeper layers that you went into?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like in those therapy sessions, it was just really surface level. It was very much like, you know, why do you feel that? I didn't know why I felt this. Like, I have no idea why I felt that. So I feel like, you know, it served its purpose at that time in my life, of course. But I feel like, yes, absolutely. The spiritual journey taught me about myself. It allowed me to come home to myself and just have so much healing, to experience peace with my inner child, with myself. And I just don't think I would have had that if I had continued down that kind of mainstream route.
Yeah, because I tend to think when you look for therapy, it can be a good start for many people, but to me it tends to be more like when you want answers, that you look for outside of yourself for answers, so that that the therapist can answer those tough questions for you. When you do the inner work, the spiritual work, you look within for those answers.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And I think, you know, I always say in my work as well, like, you know, you are your best guru, like, you know yourself, like the answers are within you. It's just having those tools, maybe books, maybe people you're working with to help you to uncover that, to help direct you into that you know, journey of where you're going to find those answers and those revelations. But you know, I say to everybody, whether you're trying to manifest things, whether it's improve your mental health, you know, always going within is so, so important, because then you're going to be able to understand yourself more, to be able to experience, you know, abundance or joy in the outer, or be able to, you know, shift your mindset.
And to be able to find the words to actually express what's going on inside.
Yeah, 100%. Again, I just don't think that vocabulary exists, for people growing up. Obviously, I was so young when this all came up to the surface. I was 18 when I first started experiencing anxiety episodes. So I just don't think there's enough education and vocabulary around it in day-to-day life or mainstream media for people to be able to articulate that. And obviously that is forever changing. The amount of amazing self-help books that are coming out, Prince Harry, for example, is talking about ancestral trauma, and it's so refreshing to see celebrities, books coming out, because the more and more things like that, people are going to read it. People are going to say, oh, actually, I felt like that all my life, or oh my gosh, their experience sounds so similar to mine. And I think we gaslight ourselves so much by, dumbing things down or being like, oh, it wasn't as bad, or it wasn't trauma. And I know for myself, when the word trauma first started coming into my vocabulary, I thought, no, like I've not experienced that. Because you think that trauma is very much, something like a war veteran goes through, especially PTSD. When I was diagnosed, I thought, well, I haven't been to Iraq. I haven't been to a war. Why would I have PTSD? But you realize as you go along the journey and work and learn about it with whoever you're working with, that actually it's so common, but people go misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, and people just don't even know that that's going on within them.
And the word trauma itself has a lot of weight to it. So like you said, of course, you think trauma, you think people, war veterans indeed, or people who have overcome crashes or accidents. But I think most, if not everyone, experience some type of trauma in some way, shape, or form. But it doesn't have to be that weighted and that heavy to experience trauma.
Yeah, absolutely true. And, from doing inner child work and writing my book and researching so much of this, it's so interesting because as Gabor Mate says about your big T's and your little T's, your big traumas and your little traumas, we so often think that it is the big traumas that accumulate to trauma, and that, like you say, if you've been through a car crash, maybe you've experienced abuse, neglect as a child, things like that, you associate that as trauma. But the little traumas as well, the little T's, are just as important, because that can obviously reflect why you're attracting the wrong type of relationship, for example, or you have a lack of self-worth, for example. I think we know those things are within us, whatever we're so to speak, lacking or trying to work on, but we don't necessarily have the vocabulary or understand like where that's come from and why we feel like that, or what has happened to us to feel that way or experience that in life.
Yeah, for sure. I think with time, like you said, it's already improving, but with time, even more possibilities to express ourselves that way will be available, I think.
And it is really refreshing to see that, because, especially for my generation as being a millennial, so many people talk about, their emotions now. And I feel like when I was young, that just was not a thing. Like the boomer generation are very much like, you just get on with it. You don't talk about it, especially here in the UK. It's like the worst it probably can be, of like, you don't talk about things, you just get on with things. That's life. And, in some respects, yes, you need that strength and determination in some ways, but also there's a lot of strength that can come from vulnerability, and a lot of strength that can come from acknowledging and having awareness over things, which I think, our generation and younger are going to be leaning into way more, because they are in touch with their emotions. They are wanting to heal. They are wanting to live happy, healthy lives and not do things the way that things have been done for so many generations. And, in terms of like ancestral healing as well, generational healing, so much is happening now, which is so fantastic to see. And even more spiritual methods, they're coming into like the mainstream through Goop, for example, Gwyneth Paltrow series. That's how I found out about family constellations, and that was a great tool modality that I've worked with to heal a lot down my ancestral line. I know this might seem a bit woo-woo, but there's lots of amazing things that you can try, no matter what your beliefs, and it's just fantastic that some of the more not so widely spoken about tools and methods are getting that attention now as well, and really helping people.
Well, and when did you discover the power of manifestation?
So that was in 2016 when I
Also, yeah.
discovered the law of attraction,
Mhm.
had my spiritual awakening. And I think the law of attraction is fantastic because it gets people at the right time on their journey where they're like, oh, I can manifest things, and oh, I can have a nice car and a nice house and money and a nice career. So it kind of really appeals to the ego, which is not what I think the sole purpose of it is. Absolutely not.
Mhm.
But for me, especially, like I was like, fantastic, I can ignore all my problems by manifesting amazing stuff. And then you realize as you go along the journey that that's not the case, and your inner work is going to come up and there is going to be resistance. There are going to be blocks. We're human. We all have these.
Mhm.
And that actually the law of attraction journey is a spiritual journey, whatever you want to call it. And that actually the secret and what the what the universe is guiding us to is that self-reflection, is that self-discovery journey where we're able to come home to ourselves and realize, okay, so it's not necessarily about all the stuff I can get. Yes, that's fantastic, and yes, we love that, but also it's about what I can give back and how I want to feel within myself, because manifestation is all about feeling. It's all about how you feel and energetic. So if you're manifesting from a space like I was, of trauma, of so many different things, I was, of course, having a whole array of varying results because, of course, my energy was coming from that place. Now, obviously, having done a huge part of the healing work, of course, it's always going to continue throughout our whole lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, not naive to that at all. My manifestation practice is so different because I'm coming from that space of alignment where I know that my energy is so much better than what it used to be, and that my mindset and my beliefs are hugely up leveled, so that I do love myself now, and I do have that grounded relationship with myself, of regulation as well with the nervous system. Like, a lot of people don't talk about regulation with manifesting, and it's almost like a kid when you go into a candy store of like, oh, all these things I can have. And
Yeah.
it again is stimulating that nervous system. It's not creating a space of regulation. So I really think as you dive deeper into manifestation, as you dive deeper into the law of attraction, you learn these tools and you realize that it is about regulation. It is about healing. Again, everybody's going to have different stuff to unpack. You might have a pretty light backpack of stuff from the last few years. You might have quite a heavy backpack from the last 40, 50 years of your life. Everybody's healing journey is different and will look different, and different tools and modalities will resonate with different people. That's the beauty of having so many. But I really feel that the law of attraction is more than just getting stuff. It really leads you home to you as well.
Yeah, because manifestation can often be used as a way to just, sit back and hope the universe will make your dreams come true. So how essential is it to not fall into this trap?
Yeah, and that's your 10% manifestors. I always joke you've got your 90% manifestors, who I'm definitely an ex 90% manifester, where you like make things happen, you control, you're like, I am going to make this happen. And then you have your 10% manifestors, who are the ones who will just sit on the couch. They won't enter the lottery or play the lottery, but they'll tell you they're going to win the lottery. So it's a co-creation process, manifestation. So you go 50% of the way and the universe meets you 50% of the way as well. So you need to make sure that you are taking aligned and inspired action to go 50% of the way. And equally, if you're a 90% manifester, you need to look at why you're controlling it. Obviously came from trauma, obviously came from a lot of things I was controlling in life. But when I really learned to unpack that and learned to relax into receiving and looked at my relationship with receiving in all forms, whether that was receiving love, receiving support, receiving gifts, like receiving anything, that was really pivotal for me to think, okay, well, actually, I have a really weird relationship with receiving gifts. So if I have that weird relationship, what on earth is my energy saying to the universe about receiving abundance and receiving gifts from the universe? So we really need to look at our relationship with receiving if you are that 90% manifester. And yeah, definitely if you're that 10% manifester as well. But also, again, if you're the 10%er, is procrastination holding you back? What is underneath that? What is causing that procrastination? What is causing you to almost maybe self-sabotage sometimes? It will look differently for everybody. But again, self-sabotage is a big one I see, where people will say they want to manifest love, they want to manifest the career, and then something will happen, and then they're like, oh, and then they'll self-sabotage it and think, oh, it didn't happen. When actually it's their energetics, it's their vibration, and through their actions that they have energetically sabotaged that opportunity or sabotage whatever. Now, again, I don't want to instill fear in people, because that is not what the law of attraction is and not how the universe works. Obviously, what is for you will never pass you by. But I think even if you don't get those opportunities, they're a great opportunity to reflect. As they say, rejection is divine redirection to what is aligned for you, what is meant for you. So look at maybe why that thing didn't happen, or are you doing too much, are you doing too little? Use it as feedback to obviously understand why, you know, why these things are happening, why you're having those varying results, why are you doing everything but nothing's manifesting. It's all key feedback from the soul.
Yeah, because sometimes, like you say, when we try to manifest but react from a place of trauma or anxiety, we have to go deeper and think to ourselves, okay, why why am I doing this? Where is this coming from? But also the balance in having healed from the inside, but also being open and receiving to what is coming, when what we manifest, to allow it to actually come to us.
100%. And it is about that allowing at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, step 5 in my 5-step process of manifesting receive, which is one of the original 3 steps of the law of attraction as well, it's not just celebrate your manifestations here, woo, I got no work, it's here. No, you've got to get into the energy of receiving, which is that allowing energy. It is that energy of allowing yourself to receive, taking that step back. Yes, trusting, because you've already worked through the step of trust and you've already worked through the stage of let go and surrender. But equally, you have to be in the energy of receiving. And I always say to people, if you want more abundance to come to you, work on your relationship with receiving. Like, ask yourself, and I always say this in every talk I do, ask yourself now, how much do you allow yourself to receive in life? Again, that could be support, money, love, hugs, gifts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you know that you've got, like I had with gifts, a bit of a weird relationship, or you feel a bit like, oh no, I have to give, I want to give to people, I want to share. It's all about that balance at the end of the day. It's not a bad thing to want to help people, to want to give, to want to, you know, give your all to people, but also that's a lack of boundaries and self-worth as well. It's all about that balance. So it's great to help others, and it's great to do all of that and give. And I normally find a lot of spiritual people and people on their manifesting journey are overgivers, because they just want to help people. And it's a beautiful trait and quality to have. But also, you've got to look after yourself as well. And you've got to allow yourself to be met by the universe. Otherwise, you're never going to create that 50-50 co-creation process that has to happen to be able to manifest.
And how do you raise yourself to a higher frequency?
Inner work, absolutely. Healing inner work, I would say, is the best thing that anyone could do to raise their vibration. Of course, there are things you can do daily, but I think to see those long-term real shifts and transformation, absolutely the inner work. Hence why I wrote Hurt, Healing, Healed, because that's the kind of next step of the journey, so to speak, with your manifesting journey and going deeper and raising your vibration. But some daily things that you can do sort of day to day in your daily practice. Grounding's fantastic. I love grounding in Mother Nature, whether that's doing a grounding meditation, breath work, going out in nature, going for a walk. That really raises my vibration personally. You might find that you want to like do some dancing and put on some great music and dance and move your body to shake that funky energy through you. Movement can be great, but everybody's going to be different with that. Some people will thrive from dancing, moving their body, maybe exercise, maybe yoga, whereas some people may think that is my idea of hell, that is not going to raise my vibration. So for other people, it might look like journaling or meditation. It might look like you know, expressing their creativity, doing a hobby they really love, whether it's like being creative with painting or making something. So everybody's going to have different ways of raising their vibration, but it's really important to try these things to understand what does make you feel good. But I think having a good solid self-care and self-love routine is always great to keep that consistency there and keep your vibration high. And a daily practice as well. Gratitude is the best attitude. So for me, gratitude is a non-negotiable in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I express my gratitude, write them down. And for me, that is a huge vibe raising exercise for me. So I think it's finding those things, but also having a routine in place so that you're consistently doing it as well.
Mhm. And do you believe in signs from the universe?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Signs and synchronicities are lovely. And it's nice to know that that communication is there with the universe. I think sometimes you can think, are we just here by ourselves? Is everything random? Like, do we have a team supporting us? So I think signs and synchronicities, I believe, are from, like our angels, our spirit guide team, the universe, whatever you connect to. And I think it's just that nice reminder of them saying, look, we're here to support you, and all is going to be well.
Yeah, yeah, I love doing that by meditating and then also asking for a very specific sign. And do you do that as well? Do you have maybe a specific sign?
Yeah, I mean, do yours work? Do they come through for you?
Oh yeah.
They do, and
Absolutely.
they're great. And I love when people put time frames on them. Me, because I'm like ex-controller, I don't put time frames, otherwise I'll be sat
Mm.
there watching for it constantly. But I
Yeah.
always say to people, um, put a time frame on it if that feels good, like 24 hours. You don't want to be like an hour and put loads of pressure on yourself. But yes, you could put like a 24-hour period, a 48-hour period. But yes, get specific. Like I've asked for things
Mhm.
like blue elephants and like really random stuff you
Mhm.
would like not see day to day. Because if you just ask for a red card, chances are you're gonna see about 10 red
Yeah.
cards in a day. So you want something that feels really unique and you're like, without a doubt, whoa, that's my sign. So I always say, like, universe, I'd love to see blah, 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 to show me that I'm on the right path in the next few days. And I want you to show it to me in a way that I cannot deny, because I would always be the person who's like, surely that's not my sign. No, I just asked for
Yeah.
another one. So I like to see the way where I'm like, oh my gosh, that is my sign.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably the ego again saying, no, don't take this too seriously. It's not for you.
Yeah, definitely. But I think people as well, I always sort of put an air of caution with signs and synchronicities, because I think people use them as emotional crutches a lot of the time as well, where they were, and again, guilty as charged. I absolutely did this in the past, hence why I say to people, release it. Like, you don't need to control it now. I would use them as an emotional crutch to convince myself that something was for me. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to see a sign if that's for me, when actually I know the universe was challenging me to really step into my power and trust myself. So I think it's really great that we have that communication there and can call upon it. But I think always remember that it's always a reminder to know within yourself, go within yourself, like, stand in your power and know that you have those answers within you as well. But it's not wrong to ask for that support and ask for that sign either, as long as you're going to be detached to it and not, base your whole hopes and everything on it.
And trust the process.
Yes, absolutely.
And are there any other like techniques or tools that you use to communicate more with your higher self and the universe?
Yeah, I feel like meditation's probably my favorite, just because I love meditating and I'm quite a visual meditator. So I feel like it's quite easy now. Again, with years and years of practice, it's quite easy now to, communicate with my higher self, communicate with my spirit team, communicate with the universe. I love meditation for that purpose. But even if you're not a meditator or you really struggle to see things, you don't always have to see things in meditation. But journaling, you can actually journal and like channel your higher self, connect to your guides in the universe through journaling. Again, signs and synchronicities are great for starting that communication and building that communication. So it's just finding that tool again that really works for you and that resonates with you as well, because some things that I say, you may think, oh gosh, I'm not doing that, but other things you might think, actually, that sounds really good, that sounds fun. So I think it's just trying what works for you.
And when did you realize that this was your purpose to teach people about this?
I think, yeah, it was definitely when I had a psychic reading with a psychic that I went to many, many years ago. I kind of never really knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew I wanted to run my own business, but I didn't sort of go to university. I didn't sort of have a solid plan as such of what on earth I was going to do. So I kind of just fell into a lot of roles. And I used to work in banking. I was a banking manager. So very different to what I do now.
Mhm.
So yes, I worked in finance and banking and sales for years and years and years. And then I run my couponing and money saving business for 6 years prior to this business. So as I was kind of having my spiritual awakening and exploring these things, and, you know, sharing with people bit by bit about the law of attraction, even though all my channels were money saving and couponing focused, people loved it. And I remember having this reading with Rachel, and she was like, it's time to step into your spiritual shoes. Like, you've got to put both feet on your spiritual path. And you need to sell that business now, let it flourish, let it grow, let a team of people make that business so much more amazing than you can do by yourself. And it's time for you to help people in another way. And it was scary because, you know, I'd run that business for 6 years. It was all I knew and I loved it. Like, I didn't want to sell it. I didn't want to start a whole new business. And I was like, is the law of attraction a business? Can I do this? But, you know, it felt very natural. And I think I've always had careers where I've helped people, where I've been of service. So I think every single career I've had has been my purpose in that season of my life. And that stepping into, you know, my spiritual purpose, my law of attraction business, was really that kind of like next step in that purpose journey. So I did know quite early on, I think it was like 2017, that I went full time with it. But it was scary because I didn't know how it was going to pan out. I didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't know if it was going to be as profitable as my last business. I had no idea, but that trust was there, that faith was there. And I knew that I had such a big passion for sharing the law of attraction and teaching people that passion alone was enough for me, and the universe would take care of the rest.
And what is the best advice you were ever given?
Oh, in business or in life?
Oh, can be either.
Oh God, that's really hard. You put me on the spot now, because like the thing is with the podcast, I am so lucky to sit down with the most inspirational people. And I feel like I take so much away from those episodes. But then sometimes even like, okay, I'm going to go with this one. This piece of advice came from my friend Emma. So I met her, she's in Canada. I met her very early on at the start of my law of attraction journey. And we still like remain really great friends today. We talk on the phone. She's epic. I love her. And it was so great to have her in my life at that time, because I didn't have a lot of like spiritual friends. No one really understood, you know, what I did or the beliefs I was into. So it felt quite a lonely time. And I met Emma at that time when I really, you know, wanted to connect with people and make friends who understood the law of attraction. So long story short, we connected over a pencil case. I saw her post on Instagram, this beautiful pencil case. And I was like, where did you get this from? It looks lovely. And she very kindly sent me one. And we were like, we've been inseparable ever since. And through some of the toughest times of my life, Emma's always been there. And she always said this quote to me, which I keep quoting on Instagram and my books, because I generally feel like this quote, especially for mental health as well, really saw me through so many different ups and downs in my life. And she said that her mum always used to say this to her, that if it's not okay, it's not the end. And that eventually it will be okay, but if it's not now, it's not the end. And it's just such a simple quote, but has given me so much peace and so much, just like hope over the years. Of okay, if it's not okay, it's not the end, and what I'm going through is just a season, and I'm going to come out of it, and things are continuously moving and continuously shifting for all of us in life, and if it's not okay, it's not the end yet.
Well, my last question is also always the same one, and that is, when are you at your happiest?
Ooh, when am I at my happiest? I think that's multiple times. Like, I'm happy like when I'm teaching and like meeting people and like feel really passionate about like a topic I really like want to share with people. So like that's like my purpose and, you know, like an aspect of my happiness, absolutely. But sometimes it can be like the most simplest things of like just spending a weekend with my partner and my dog and just like seeing her really happy and taking her for a nice walk and seeing her play with her little doggy friends. Like, honestly, sometimes the simplest of things in life are really my happy moments, but also, you know, the incredible, amazing achievements as well. So I think both.
It's a good to have balance in that as well, right? Well, thank you so much, Emma. It was a joy talking to you.
Thank you, Susan, for having me.